Welcome to this episode of All Things LOCS, where we're discussing leadership, operations, culture, and strategies for growth. Today, we have Victor Guadarrama on, and he is the founder of Preneur and B Events Academy. And you help entrepreneurs scale their business with profitable live events. So glad you're here. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Yes, absolutely. So let's dive right into there first. You help entrepreneurs scale their business with profitable live events. We should say that too. Tell us, what does that mean? And then how'd you get into it? What's your aspirations with it?
Yeah, I've been in the events industry for over 10 years. And now that I am ready to kind of show entrepreneurs, experts, and coaches on how to promote their own product or service or anything that they're offering to the world that they want to make a big impact. So I'm putting on my own events as an event coordinator and bringing other speakers that are, have other skill sets like marketing and branding and all that fun stuff that the event takes up, a lot of things to make it happen. So now I am kind of my impact and my mission now is to help other entrepreneurs to kind of put them on their own stage and really try to make an impact in whatever they do, right? So it could either be a product they have or a service that could change someone else's lives in terms of their business, their own personal life. So I'm super excited to continue on doing that.
Why should that be a goal for them to get up on a stage, get themselves in front of people, especially nowadays where so many people have a fear of getting in front of people and the judgments? Why for you is that so relevant and important for them as business owners to start getting on the stage and speaking to people in a larger audience?
Yeah, now more than ever, there's so much noise, right? And we're all kind of competing for an audience and for attention in terms of people knowing what your product or service is. And I believe live events can be a vehicle in your business, right? There's so many different ways to grow your business, but my niche is live events, and you getting on top of a stage kind of makes you step out of your comfort zone, right? At least for me, I am an introvert at heart. And so
You're kidding.
yeah,
No way.
very introverted. In high school, it was really, really interesting. But I'm now stepping in a role more of an extroverted role where before I didn't do my events, and now that I do, I've gotten so much attention and so much questions on like, oh, you're an event coordinator. I'm like, yeah, I've been doing it for 10 years, right? So now that I'm creating my own stage and my own platform and my own community, I'm able to bring people along in this journey and really have that kind of impact for other entrepreneurs, kind of having them build their own stage.
Just to kind of go on that, so especially like with you being in the industry for 10 years, what are some facts and myths of it? Like if there's a company or a business owner where now it's kind of a boardroom talking point, like, hey, I think we should do an event, or I think we need to increase brand awareness this way, or we need to do this. What people generally speaking have preconceived notions, and a lot of smart people in businesses have some preconceived notions. But when you're getting into the event space, it's like you don't know what you don't know. What are some facts and myths of that industry when you're talking about a business owner or a business moving into that world?
Yeah, one of the myths is that events are expensive, and they can be if you want all the bells and whistles, right, of a big production, right? For those that are just starting out and wanting to make that decision of like, should we move forward with live events?
What's that? If I could pause you, like, what's that mean? Large, what kind of range is that? Because for other subjects, it could be like $500, and that's like, oh my god, that's right, or
Yeah.
5 million.
When I mean large, I mean your budget, basically. So I'll give you a quick example. I have a client in San Diego. His goal is to get more leads. And so by doing so, he's doing quarterly events in San Diego for real estate investors. And he is attracting accredited investors specifically. So his budget is $1,000. And that includes some hors d'oeuvres, some apps. And we're leveraging venues that already have kind of pre-existing bars and kind of the setup environment that he's wanting. And now we've done it for, I think, 4 times already. And each time he gets new leads, new accredited investors. So when I mean large, it doesn't necessarily have to be of this big production of 500 people, 1,000 people. For him, his goal is to get 50 people, right? And he does just by a 3-hour meetup, on a Tuesday. So it really depends on what the entrepreneur, the business's goals are. For him, it's just to get more leads And by doing so, I think a networking mixer was the best option. And now he's going to look into going bigger in terms of more of a workshop or more of a seminar type. So when I mean large, it means kind of your budget. What is your current budget? Because the myth is that it can be expensive, but really it doesn't need to be.
Yeah, and I would imagine it varies just from market to market. You mentioned San Diego versus here in Vegas versus doing the same thing in like Idaho, in like Coeur d'Alene or something like that.
Exactly.
But you were saying how like you're, like that you're going into. Actually, I'm like blanking, but
You're good.
yeah,
You're good.
So just outside of the budget, right? Because and to your point, I feel like when we think of events, you think of those massive, Russell Brunson or Grant Cardone's or Tony Robbins
Stadium.
Yeah, right. It's like, so does that mean the only way I'm going to do an event is if I have like 5,000 people? So part of it too, outside of budget, as I'm just kind of curious to know, outside, it's almost like do's and don'ts, but how many people almost talk themselves out of not doing an event because they think they need to go significantly large? And like, even like you said, with the budget, it's okay, you can do something small and still get a positive impact. What do you think is, outside of just that fear, what do you think holds people back the most from doing an event?
Yeah, just people not showing up, right? And that's the big one. Like, spending this time, effort, money in this event and no one shows up, right? And sometimes that's okay, because it's either like a marketing issue, right? It's just like anything else. You're going to have to test it and then tweak it if need be, right? So, for example, for me, my first very event, I was wanting 50 people, and I got 15. It was one of the most amazing events with just 15 people, right? The smaller community, the smaller impact or the bigger impact, because I'm able to really focus on more one-on-one on site and really connect with them. And so when we think about number of people at an event, it's really depends on like what is the impact. So each entrepreneur, each business has a different ROI, right? And so you can make that same ROI with 5 people in the room versus 50 or 100 people in the room. It's really on those people that are ready to move forward with their product or service. And if you did a really good job of presenting your offer, right, at your events. So when people and entrepreneurs just say like, oh, like I'm really scared not having people on site. Don't be scared. Like the smaller rooms are actually the better ones because you're able to connect with them more on a deeper level. And you're able to really showcase how your product or service or your offer, your coaching program, whatever that is, can really benefit them and move their needle, right? And scale their business and grow their personal, as a person or their personal brand. So that's kind of one of the myths. My next event is coming up, and so I'm shooting again for 50. So once I get that goal, then I'm just going to keep going up and up. But for now, I tweaked my marketing, I tweaked my messaging. I'm being more specific on who my avatar is, which is important. As some people, their avatar, you need to know your avatar in order to attract the right people.
Yeah, I feel like, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like the biggest question people would ask is, what if nobody shows up?
Right.
So, but to your point, if you're talking to that person and you have a great message, you got to get out there. But Victor, what if nobody shows up? How do you create a reframe, which is essentially what you did, right? Like, it gives me more of an opportunity to get one-on-one for that person. Shits and giggles, let's say nobody shows up. How do we approach that situation?
Yeah, for anyone that's just starting out, I'd recommend starting on your own backyard. So if I live in Vegas, then I'm going to do my first event in Vegas, just because you already have your community around you. You have your family or friends that are there to support you. So even them being at your event, one thing that is really important in events is repetition, right? So you being more comfortable on stage, that's something that I'm working on as well. So as many time as you can to be on stage and feel comfortable selling or promoting your offer, your product or service, it's really going to be really, really impactful when you do have someone with 50 or 100 people, right? My first event, like I mentioned, only had 15, was shooting for 50 people. But I planned that event like if I had 500 people in there. And so everything was to the T, audio visual. I had my staff, smiles, right? I gave content, value, networking mixer. I planned that like if I had 500 people, because once I get there, it's going to be so much easier in the planning process. So.
Yeah, I will say, and I forget who said this, but something to that same effect, that the person was, if you can't be prepared for 5 people, how the hell are you going to be prepared for 500? And that's definitely the approach you're taking, which is like super interesting there.
When you talk about this space, like the event coordination space, there's other industries that are male dominated, and so when like a woman comes in, I'll just use construction as an example, that like they bring in a very different approach, and it's actually flipped right in the event coordination space where it's far more women doing it.
Yeah.
So what's it like kind of going into that market as long as you've been in it? Where does it change your dynamic when you're working with some of these CEOs and some of these clients? Walk us through kind of how that looks like, because it's kind of a rare occasion that happens.
Yeah. So yes, I am in a more female dominated industry. That being said, at first I was a little kind of overthinking it, right? Like, what are people going to think about me? Are they going to put labels on me? But the truth is, like, I'm really, really good at what I do. So I would say a year or 2 years ago, I really leaned into that. I'm like, if I'm going to be a male event coordinator, I'm going to be the best male event coordinator.
Beat up all these Tammys out here.
So it's really like, as being a male in a female dominant industry, it's really put me at a kind of, I wouldn't say advantage, but like a differentiator, right? So I'm different from the rest of the industry because I am male, and there are really few event coordinators are male dominant, or like in the female dominant industry. And so for me, when I talk to clients, I would say the advantage of being in this industry is kind of, I'm just like any other guy, I would say. We're really just straight to the point. Really, here are the things. Here's the ROI. Really, I'm not saying that women are not. It's just like we're really just this. We're really like bottom line, right? And that's what events are. It's like, what's my ROI? What's my KPIs? What are all these things? And I understand that events, sometimes we got to fluff some stuff like audiovisual and lighting and make it look all nice. But ultimately, if you're not making money at your event, like, why are you doing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm able to really kind of, a lot of entrepreneurs, they put on their own events and they're male. So it's a little, I would say the communication, at least for me in my current business, has been a little easier, just because mostly it's been all male entrepreneurs I work with. So I say the communication barrier is kind of like lowered per se.
Tell me this, because whether it's and again, I look at it, kind of either way. I look at it off of merit and results,
right?
And so even in this industry where it is female dominated and male going in, but at the end of the day, not all event coordinators are created equal, right?
Right.
What for you, when you are looking at another event coordinator, you're like, they got their fucking shit together, they are pro 10 out of 10, and then what are some behaviors or things you see in other event coordinators where you're like, that's a red flag, I would really think twice about working with this person?
Yeah, something that in the industry is one is cost, right? So something that I battle with myself is, compared to other event coordinators when we're bidding for an event, is cost. And I'm typically a little bit in the higher end just because I know what I'm worth, right? And a lot of these clients and those proposals that come back, or when I follow up, they're like, oh, I found a cheaper or like a more less expensive event coordinator. For me, that tells me a lot of things. It's like they're just, one, the event coordinator doesn't know their worth, or two, it's just like they don't have that experience, or they're lowballing the offer so they could get the client. And so as an event coordinator, it really is about knowing your worth, right? And so kind of some red flags would be, or someone that I'm looking for, let's start there. Let's start positive.
Yeah.
Is some positive attributes I look at for an event coordinator is being proactive. I feel like that is the biggest one, especially on site. Even before the pre-event logistics, which events takes 3 to 4 months prior to an event of a lot of logistics and planning. But I start event coordinators right on site, because then I know how they act around the clients, how they interact around attendees. I get a sense of their personality and how they work. Do I need to, micromanage? Are they good on their own? So it's really like having them just jump in right away at an event as like my assistant, or like a event coordinator number 2, point person to really see their potential. And so that's kind of what I look for. Kind of
That's interesting. Like if you see someone in there at an event and they're just
Yeah.
frozen in the corner,
Right.
you're like, oh, they don't know their way around.
right.
That's interesting.
Because event coordinators, like, we are proactors, we're really become proactive in all the situation and try to um, not have fires, us kind of take that fire out before it even starts. So
Mm.
if that person doesn't have that like quickness and like just being proactive of like seeing stuff that could potentially happen and resolve it before it happens, that's not the
That's so
right event
interesting.
coordinator, because in events there's so much that could go wrong, but it doesn't need to be if you have the right people.
We had a guest on a little bit earlier, and they're actually in the food industry, and it feels like very much like when they're like literally in a kitchen trying to do service,
Right.
and like the chef is doing rounds in different places to make sure everything is running
Exactly.
smooth. And it'd be like the same thing if they just went in and this person was
Just standing there.
just standing there.
Yeah,
You're like,
just-
oh, that's so for you, it's like that's a dead giveaway
right.
that they're not proactive.
Exactly. Like
Okay.
you're like, we're searching for problems in a good way.
Yeah, they're waiting for them to happen before going to see
Exactly.
where they're
So,
at.
Yeah.
but that would be like when they're at an event. What are some things that like a business owner or someone else is seeing prior to that before they even hire them that you're like,
Yeah. I would say word of mouth is another referral base. We would say, a lot of my new or current clients are referred base. Like they know my work. I've worked with those people in the past, and they're like really just refer me out. And so majority and bulk of, I would say majority of the industry event coordinators is really referral based. You don't see a lot of event coordinators doing the marketing, doing ads,
yeah,
promoting themselves, and that's something that I want to do differently, right? And stand out of the crowd of event coordinators. So then, so it's a little bit different to that. I'm trying to tackle getting new customers through content, and that could either be podcasts, it could be doing my own stage, doing my own events, and so unfortunately, there's not a lot of like vetting in terms of, are you a good event coordinator or a bad event coordinator? People could just go based off of referral base, testimonials, their past work. A lot of new clients, they do ask for previous
Yeah.
work that I've done, any testimonials that I may have. So think of an event coordinator like an artist, right? Ask
Mhm.
for their portfolio,
Mhm.
ask for past references, because you can't really go based off of their website.
Yeah.
Right. You have to get that true,
Is-
you know.
I was gonna ask, is it fair? Because you made the point a few times, and I think it's a really relevant one. But is it fair to ask them, get all that information, and then what's your normal return on investment? Like, is that a fair question for somebody to ask? So if I pay somebody, hey, I paid you $1,000 for this event, what should I see back? Or is it very dependent upon, like Antonio was saying, market or the avatar you're going after?
Yeah. Good question. Typically, event coordinators charge 10 to 15% from your budget of your entire event budget. That's kind of the industry standard for a lot of event coordinators. Something I charge a little on the higher end because I come in as an event strategist. I want to make sure that you do get your ROI, right? I'm not just hiring your audiovisual. I'm not just hiring your catering, your food and beverage, right? I'm becoming part of your team to make sure that what is the goal and how my skill sets can really help in your goal set, achieve your goal. And so I become event coordinator / event strategist for all my clients, because I want to make sure if they're wanting to hit that 5-figure or 6-figure at that event, like what can I do to make that happen on my side? So, but typically industry standards around 10 to 15% of your event budget that event coordinators will charge.
I wanted to circle back around to something that you mentioned, which is like the bidding process. That that some event coordinators, or just when people are bidding on a project, that there's sounded like a little bit of a undercutting that can happen.
Yeah.
How bad is it? Is it like is it razor thin of what can? So I'm using like kind of in my head construction, where if
Right.
someone has like a $75,000 job, that's like, hey, like anyone would take this as about $75,000 like home remodel.
Right.
But someone else comes in at like 50, you're like, that is really low. Like, that's almost
Right.
a problem going to happen.
Yeah, I would say it's really how you present your proposal, right? For me, I am proposing a transformation, not just a transactional, bid or a a job for me. For me, I'm really wanting to impact more than just coordinating their event. So I wouldn't say it's really undercutting in the industry where, hey, I'll give you a better deal, but it
Man,
really
fuck this
depends.
guy. I'll get
Yeah.
you an extra $1,000 off or something.
Yeah, it really depends on I always ask what the goal is for the entrepreneur or the person or the company that's wanting to do a live event. And if they're paying me to do a job and get their ROI, like I'm giving them a result, right? And that's something that event coordinators are currently not really. I'm going a little bit more above and beyond because as an entrepreneur, I know the other side now, right? Now that I'm doing my own live events. So I'm able to have a little bit more empathy because it's just not asking for the credit card to pay the invoices. I'm like saying like, hey, we could save it. You could save a little bit on this vendor if we take this off, or let's switch this food and beverage to something else. So I'm a little bit more intentional on um, kind of the whole proposal aspect of it,
Yeah.
and the whole journey of picking like why you should pick me is because I actually care, right? I'm not just doing a job. It's like we're both growing, right? We're collaborating on something bigger, and it's just an amazing thing to do on with them.
Just an observation. It kind of feels that there's sprinkling of COO, chief operations officer, and kind of what you're doing. And there's like the project management side of things of like,
Right.
ordering, making sure everything is connected. There's sequencing of like when you start, when the event happens, when it ends, all that
Right.
stuff. And then sprinkling kind of that offensive and defensive approach to the budget, to ambiance, everything like that. That's a
Right.
little bit more of a CO. So that's where that kind of hybrid comes in, very similar to like construction. Like it's project management,
Right.
which is vast majority of the event coordinators, but it's
Exactly.
also having this component too, where it's a little bit more strategic.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's something that I add to what of all my proposals is like, you're not just hiring an event coordinator, you're also hiring a project manager, a event strategist, right? We want a win-win situation. And so that's kind of why when proposing, I always ask like, what are the other bids coming at? And what are they offering? I ask those questions because ultimately they want results. And if I could get them there, then they have no problem paying me a little bit more, where the other event coordinators are just saying, we'll just do your event, but don't really care, right? Or don't take that extra effort or extra um, just opportunity to ask more questions on like the entrepreneur, like what is your goal and how can I be part of it?
It's funny that you say that because it really is such a simplistic approach, right?
Right.
Because it's very easy just to say I do all this stuff, and then here's my work. But then something as simple as just I ask them their goals, which is what a lot of people miss.
Right.
And I mean, I see that even in referencing construction. I see it a lot in healthcare, where it's just I can go to the person down the road and pay less
Right.
than coming to you. So why the hell should I pick you? And a lot of people want to do here's all the bells and whistles versus, all right, let me actually just ask you some really great questions and find out what you want to accomplish here.
Right.
And then show you how we can do that in a really time efficient manner, where if I'm getting you better in 3 weeks and the average is 6, how much would that save you in time and money? So I really appreciate that because it is something that's powerful that a lot of people tend to forget. Now, you mentioned simplistic approach of starting in something locally. What's some of the logistical challenges? Like you said, you're doing a different event. I believe it's in Tucson, if I'm not mistaken, right? Or
Scottsdale.
Scottsdale, okay. So it's outside of the market. So what are some logistical challenges when somebody's like, I've conquered my area and I want to move out a little bit. Now what am I looking at?
The complexity is the same, I would say, but the difference is like you need to find new vendors, right? Because it is a different market. And so that could become a little bit challenging, especially if you have never been there. And that's where kind of your Rolodex, I would say, right? My preferred vendors, my close event coordinators. Hey, have you been to Scottsdale? And have you worked with this hotel? Have you worked with this vendor? So it's really just your network is huge as an event coordinator, and something that people will pay for you already have, the people in place. In terms of having an event in a different market, can be challenging. I'll give you an example. I have a client that went to Cancun and then now in Portugal in October. And so we definitely went from Orlando, Florida to more international. Let me tell you, the planning process is a little bit different in terms of kind of the essentials are the same, but it's not like of America. Like when I ask something, they give it to me in 3 hours or the day of end of business day. Let's just say other countries take a little longer to respond. They're in a whole different, the culture and just the work environment's a little different. So that's even something that I had to learn in Cancun as well as Portugal, with one, the language barrier being one, right? Although I'm bilingual in Spanish, so Cancun was a little easier, but I don't know Portuguese. And also just learning how they work. And it could be also domestically, right? When I work in at events for New York, they're very just straight to the point, cut, what do you want? Like that's my phone conversations with venues and vendors. Like let's just wrap it up. Yep. You're wasting my time. We're in California, it's a little bit more laid back. Like, what do you want? Like, let's just, let's do it all. So it just really depends on the market. Here in Las Vegas, the venue negotiations a little different. They're really more hardball to get here. In terms of if you're wanting to do an event here in Las Vegas, it's a little bit different in terms of the venue specifically in contracting versus San Diego or versus Scottsdale, because there's so many events here, right? This is the capital, the entertainment capital of the world, and all the events can come here, trade shows. And so it's a little bit different in terms of having an event here, but it's not impossible. It's just a little bit different. So to answer your question, is just to ask questions with the vendors and also the venues. Like, do you have already a preferred list so that you've worked with? Like, have them kind of do the work. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Where, hey, I'm an outsider. I'm coming from Las Vegas, going into Scottsdale. Do you already have a preferred vendor list that you work with? And we go into insurances, COIs, and if they already have a preferred vendor list that they like and like to work with, and they have great results, and they keep using it, right? Because people do events at that location, then that's kind of a one way to make your life easier when you're planning your event, is just asking questions and asking, do you know someone? So again, going back to the referral base.
Yeah. So leveraging some resources for sure.
But for me in Portugal, like, I don't know anybody. I don't have a Rolodex in Portugal. So it's just really asking questions, and something that I always tell everyone is don't get one quote, don't get one proposal from a vendor, get 3 to 4. So then when you go into the negotiation table, then you're able to have that leverage from other vendors. And also you're able to say like, hey, I really want to work with you, but are you able to match with this other person? So I would say ask questions. If you hire an experienced event coordinator like me, then I already have kind of a Rolodex here domestically. So I know who to ask and get the best vendors or venues. If not, then I would just say ask questions or kind of more referral base.
Question for you. When one thing you mentioned earlier was about community, that you're building a community. And is this industry like a lone wolf industry where someone wants to become an event coordinator and they just run amok? Or is it kind of like in real estate or insurance where it is a little bit more community, where they want to connect with different people, learn tips and tricks, be a part of groups? How does that look like in that space?
Yeah, for event coordinators specifically, there are many trade shows. IMEX comes into mind, that is coming up in October here in Las Vegas. It's a yearly, a big event, 15,000 people from across the world. So there are events, trade shows that event coordinators are able to go and be part of and learn more, right? Because the event industry and just in technology is always changing and getting better. So we're always wanting to sharpen our tools and kind of knowledge. And so we say that you need to find an event coordinator that also invests in themselves. So going into these events and webinars and learning new things we as event coordinators could then take it to our clients. Like, hey, I just saw this cool new thing, new software that can make our registration go faster, so when you kind of just backtracking to the question of like, how do you know red flags or good flags as when you're getting an event coordinator? One is like asking them, like, do you invest in yourself? Like, Are you up with the trends, and et cetera? And so that's kind of one of the big things is community for event coordinators. Currently, I don't see in terms of I see it in the aspect as a profession.
Mhm.
So there are you get certificates, you get so many other things as a profession. What I'm not seeing in the event coordinator industry is a community. So that's something that, besides building the community of entrepreneurs that want to do their own events, I am now looking into creating a community of event coordinators where we can help each other through our businesses.
Mhm.
Because something that people tend to forget as event coordinators, we're running a business as well. It could be a solopreneur, it could be, you could find some freelance event coordinators, but technically it's a business. And something that I don't find in the industry currently is supporting each other. I know we're technically all in competition of, just like any realtors, but collaboration is the best now in terms of helping each other. I think that's the best way to kind of the new era of entrepreneurship, right? Collaboration, I would say, and community. And so I am wanting to put a community together of event coordinators that could help each other with their own businesses and maybe help with, maybe someone's lacking marketing, or someone's lacking, their taxes, or their budgeting and their proposals. And so just getting a kind of a collective of people and to bounce off ideas. I think it's powerful now, especially now with AI, right? I know I use AI in my own business to make my life easier, but community is becoming kind of that high, like people want it now because of AI, that all the videos now, you don't even know if it's real or not.
Yeah.
And so getting people together in real life. And that's kind of one of my passions, is like live events versus virtual. I still like virtual events. They're good. But I think bringing people together in communities, I think it's important. So I'm building 2 communities, one for event coordinators for us to help each other in our own businesses. And then the other community is entrepreneurs with like-minded entrepreneurs that are wanting to have live events be part of their business growth.
Yeah.
So
You mentioned something at the beginning that I find very relevant, and I want to give you a lot of credit for too, which is you said I'm very introverted, right?
Yes.
So for those people that aren't, right, there's just a lot of, for some people, crippling fear with even just speaking to people face to face, not even doing an event. And, we're working with a lot of people in healthcare, a lot of doctors, and they tend to be on the little bit more analytical, kind of reserve side. So for that person who you're advocating, hey, you got a great message, you can help more people, get out there. And Victor, I'm nervous. I don't like speaking. How have you actually overcome that? And what would you say to that person, what have you done that they can also leverage to help themselves?
Yeah, I would say as an introvert, like in high school, it was just like, if I knew I was ready to go up and speak, I would just like go to the restroom or get an F, right? So I definitely know the struggle of being an introvert and not wanting to be in front of people. One is just getting out of your comfort zone. So something that I decided to do the past 2 years is put a goal for myself, is getting out there, doing things like this, right? Getting invited to podcasts and on stages. You could start small with networking opportunities where it's in front of just 5 to 10 people, 15 people. The thing is, you have to get out of your comfort zone, one, but two, it's repetition, right? Just like anything else, you have to put in the reps in order to get better and to get out of your shell. For those introverts, something that I always say, if you're putting on your own event and your own stage, like you're the industry expert. So you like people are wanting to go see you. And that's something as introverts where like sometimes we get a little, don't talk to me, like, or I don't know what to say, or I don't know what to talk about, which is the big one for me. And networking environments is like, I don't know what to say, or like I just freeze. The power of live events is you position yourself as the community expert. And so people are asking you questions. So you're there just answering those questions, and you're the one with the knowledge and wisdom of what they want to know. And so for those my fellow introverts, I would say one, start small, kind of go, maybe get invited to a local networking event and be a speaker, or even start as a panel, right? Like they actually ask you the questions and you just answer very briefly, because there's a lot of you up there, your community and other panelists and other speakers. So you could be invited to those smaller environments, or if you really just want to break the ice, just do your own live events. Because I, after my first event, it was game changer. I'm like, it really became like, now I'm like super excited to do another one, because people are now looking at me for expertise or knowledge or wisdom, where before I'm having to like think in my mind, like, what do I ask? Like, what questions should I do? Like, is this an awkward hi? All the little small things that us introverts think about. When you do your own live events, all of that goes away, because people are coming up to you, people are asking questions, people are wanting to take photos with you. Like it just flips on you. So I personally got more comfortable after my first event, just being on stage, because I positioned myself as the industry leader.
That's interesting. So I don't really see a whole lot of event coordinators that are putting on their own events. How's that helped you in communicating with clients, where it's like, I know exactly how it feels to pull the trigger on this amount or swipe the card here and do this, but it is necessary. Like, walk us through how that first, those events that you did for yourself actually helped you in your negotiation process and your connection process with these clients.
Yeah. I think that's what sets me apart from other event coordinators, where I'm putting kind of my money where my mouth is, right? I'm really good at what I do, and now doing my own events, I'm able to have a little bit more empathy with my clients, where before I would just ask their credit card, hey, I got to pay this invoice, right? And for me, it was so easy, because that's my profession, is getting them what they needed and just asking for a card to execute. Now being on the other side as an event coordinator, producing my own live events, I when I ask that credit card, it's with a little bit more intention and I ask more questions. I'm like, is this a route you want to go? Here's maybe a cheaper route. Like, if we go this, it might, be a domino effect and might have a different impact. So I'm a little bit more intentional with my clients now being on the other side, now that I have put in thousands of dollars in my own events. And so it's quite neat, at least for me, where I'm able to now turn it around. Me like, I know what you're feeling. I know what you're going through. And nothing negatively. It's just, back then it was just so easy as an event coordinator. Hey, I need your credit card because I need to pay this $10,000 invoice.
Yeah.
Where now it's like, I've paid that invoice before. Are you sure? Like, here are all the options. So I'm a little bit more intentional about that. And that's something that for all those event coordinators putting on their events, I would love to connect, because there's really few of us doing our professions, but also teaching others how to do it, especially the event coordinators, because we're typically the people, making it happen in the background.
Yeah.
So now for me, I'm challenging myself to stepping out of my comfort zone and teaching others how to create their own experiences.
Victor, how do you handle scope creep? So like when you're taking on a project and you're brought on with very clear, like, I am doing this. And then the client, for whatever, is like, can you also handle this? Can you help me with marketing? Can you help me with this? And now the project is bigger, getting larger and larger and larger. So how do you handle that, so those guardrails are tight on what you're going to be doing? And do you add on more stuff as the project grows?
Yeah, it just really depends. Just kind of straightforward, right? I put everything in a contract. So every client, even with my repetitive clients, I have a client that does 8 events a year, but each event is a separate contract, because I treat them differently, right? Maybe the amount of people is differently, or it's a different type of event. So for me, to make it easier, and this is kind of like a ninja tip for all event coordinators, make sure your contract is clear with the scope of work. So I get X amount of money at this time by doing this, right? So just being very straightforward. Now there are clients that are like, hey, can you do this? Sometimes the new ones, I'm like, sure, but just just kind of telling them like, at this moment, I will do it, but moving forward, just know it's an additional cost or additional fee, just for you don't set them as
It's
a bad
boundaries thing.
expectation
Yeah.
of when they do hire you again on the second time. They're like, oh, like you didn't charge me last time. I'm like, well, that's kind of on you because you didn't frame that since the very beginning. But it just really depends on if it's a small ask or a larger ask, right? I usually accommodate the smaller asks.
Do you tend to like keep your mouth shut, or I know it's like a weird question, but hear me out. So like when by that I mean like, hey, I'm handling everything between these parameters as the event coordinator. But if you're seeing like a marketing strategy play out and you're like, oh no, this is not going to get butts in seats, or a thing that someone else is doing that could affect the success of the event.
Yep.
Do you step in and kind of talk about that, or is it like that is outside of my purview? I'm here for this. So that's kind of what I mean by that.
No, yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great question because
you damn right it is.
No, because I've just went through this, funny enough. So going back to the question of like being more intentional and asking your goals, right? As an event coordinator, a lot of event coordinators don't. But also asking permission, right? Some of entrepreneurs, business owners, they want you to just do a job and do it well. And that's the result that they want you to give. So just by asking permission, it really brings down that barrier of, hey, if I see something that could potentially work better or have a better ROI, is that something that you're open to receive feedback from me? Some clients will say yes, like let's talk more. And other entrepreneurs kind of on their own ways, they're like, no, I'm sticking what I'm doing. At that time, they hired me for a job. That's kind of the bottom line. But as for B events and for the team that I'm creating, I am kind of teaching them to ask more questions and asking permission, right? Because I've been in the profession for 10 plus years. I've done 1,000 plus events. And so I've seen what works and what hasn't. And things are always changing. Things are always getting better in the tech world. So just asking permission would be the big main one for me. And some would say no, some would say yes. But for those that say yes, like it's great because we're able to collaborate even more and make sure that their goal gets met by the little tweaks that I am proposing.
What would you say? Because you're building all this out while you're still working a W-2.
I am, yes.
Yeah. So, and this is, as much as we're talking about event space, it's just an area of business where a lot of people want to make the move from W-2 employee to entrepreneur, and there's just this sense of, should I? You're right. They just quit,
Right.
and then now I have no income. So what do I do? But looking at it, what would you say would be some skills that somebody really should start to hone, whether they're going into the event space or not, but they're looking to make the move into entrepreneurship?
Yep.
What skills should they really start developing and honing in on while they're in that 9 to 5? That once they do make the move, it'll make it a lot easier, especially knowing that it's just going to take a lot of work, a lot of grit, and a lot of perseverance
100%.
to get to where they want to go.
Yeah, like you mentioned, I still have a W-2 and building a business. And it's been really challenging, but also really rewarding because I'm seeing kind of the effort that I'm putting in with countless hours, midnights, no weekends, fun weekends anymore. You really have to put the work in. But if you're really determined of creating your own business and doing so while you have a W-2, right? I definitely come from a very traditional family background, right? Go to college, move up the corporate ladder, and go from there. But I've found myself not wanting to go up the corporate ladder. That being said, I'm in a position now where I still have a W-2 and I'm able to do what I love to do, which is event coordinating. I'm still in the same industry, and so I'm able to still be connected somehow through my W-2. So really, whatever you want to do on the side, start doing it now before you quit your job. I am currently almost 3 years coming up. I started my business and I started my current job at the same month. So
not recommended.
Yeah, not recommended. And so I've definitely seen kind of I've just the journey that I've went through so far, where I am learning this new job, but also creating this entirely new company. Again, I've been doing it for 10 years, but officially now my own business for almost coming up to 3, where I'm still doing my profession in a W-2, but also doing it on my own separately. And the beauty of now is there's no non-competes, fun fact, right? It's illegal. That being said, what I'm trying to not say is like you're competing with your current W-2, but don't make that be a factor or something like holding you back that, hey, like maybe my W-2 would not like me to start my own business or more my own side thing. Since the very beginning, since I started my W-2 job, I asked him like, hey, just know I do events on the side. In an economy like this, like you need to be working a couple of jobs to really make it happen. And they were okay with that. Later down the line, they asked me to sign an NDA not NDA. Yes.
Non-disclosure agreement.
Yes. Thank you. And it was around that time that they were still trying to figure out if it's illegal or not. And so there I was really like nervous. I'm like, do I need to shut down my company? Right.
Or transfer to mom.
Or transfer.
Just a 1099 con. My
right.
mom runs it. It's crazy.
So make sure you're informed first. Obviously, if you're really competitors, what my current job is contracting trade shows. So not a direct competitor, but almost alike, and we're in the same industry. That being said, get informed first, right? Is it going to be a problem for your W-2? If so, find another W-2. Don't let the job really hinder you to start something, because ultimately I want to get out of my W-2 and go full time. And for me, I didn't want to move the corporate ladder. So if you're out there saying I'm in the same position, stay in your W-2, get as much experience. My W-2 is fun. I work from home. I get to meet a lot of new people. I contract venues all over across the country. Then that helps me contract in my own business, right? So I've already built relationships through my W-2 that could then later be transferred to my company. So if you're building a business and have a W-2, you're really going to have to be locked in, really working 24/7. It's not 40-hour a week. It's an 80-hour work week. That being said, as an entrepreneur, like you guys may know, it's always the 80-hour work week. You're always working at all weird hours of the day. So technically it's preparing you to become an entrepreneur, because you have a 40-hour strict work week. In addition, you're building your business.
I appreciate what you say, though. On the flip side, even for the business owners, I do find what you said is very relevant, which is having some transparency.
Right.
So from the employee side, it's let me be upfront with you. But then on the employer side, what I hear sometimes from certain individuals is you got to be all committed to us, right? You have to, like, this is your primary commitment. And then you're almost saying it could be both. I could be 100% committed to this company and helping you while still having this other stuff. Because to your point, there are a lot of people who maybe they're not building a business, but I need a second or third job to supplement what I'm making. And that doesn't take away from what I'm committing to you.
Right. And transparency is huge. And if you're in a W-2 or a company that really goes negative with you because you're doing it, you're not in the right place, right? Look for another W-2 that supports your dreams, your goals, right? That's the type of leaders that you want surrounded with and with you. So my current leadership, they're like rooting for me, like, oh, when is your next event? Like, I'm excited for you. Like, and that's crazy to have, right? Mm-hmm. Like you're able to give 100% with them, but also give 100% on what you're doing. And so when I do have an event, I submit PTO, right? I honor working hours. I know that I am working for someone else. So I honor that. So as just someone being ethical, I get time off and I make sure that it's not interfering, but just know that you could do both. And it's not impossible if you really want it.
Tell us a little bit about trends that you see in the market. I know, obviously, like during COVID, doing events was different. It impacted just about everything. And then how about now? And how do you see things kind of moving into the future in the event space?
Yeah, trends. So COVID happened, and so we all went virtually, right? What I've seen the big trend now is coming back to live events. It's like really like leveling up in numbers. More trade shows are coming back online. Definitely, it's been years now since COVID, but people are wanting that face-to-face interaction rather than virtual. We all got sick of Zooms. I'm still sick of them.
Yeah.
So that's why my niche specifically is live events. Yes, I do a couple virtual events. I'm not saying they're bad, but people are really wanting that human interaction.
Yeah.
So one of the trends is human interactions, either in masterminds, so little smaller, intimate community settings, or these bigger, larger events where you get to meet new people and network. So that's one of the trends. It's live events is not going away, right? Especially now with AI coming through. Let's just invite AI to the party, right? Let's invite AI to the live events and let's talk about how AI can make our businesses a lot better. So that's one big trend, is that live events is not going away. It's actually getting bigger, right? And people are doing it. Those people are still in the virtual life. There's hybrid events. So you could still host a live event, but also have a virtual
Extreme, like a broadcast.
Yeah, exactly. You can have the virtual people that are not able physically be there, but you're able to give that option to your attendees in a more hybrid role. Another thing is, funny enough, I know we've been talking about like 500, 1,000 person events. The event industry actually is now focusing on smaller events. People want to be in more of intimate setting,
Like less seminar,
more collaboration, more masterminding, more like hot seats where people like bounce off ideas, like what's working in your business, what is not, how can we help. So we're coming into this new age because of technology, where people are wanting to be in smaller groups, smaller communities, and really just feed off of each other, right? In terms of just the power of knowledge, the power of who's in the room, and how can collaboratively help each other in their own businesses, right? Because there's so much competition now and no scarcity there, but we're all fighting for attention, right?
The same butt has to be in someone's seat. Yeah. So walk us through something like that too as well, because like, I've put on some events before too in the past, and like getting butts in seats is like, that is
the big one.
That's the thing that will make or break the whole event. In terms of ticket sales and doing that, especially as you mentioned in a competitive space, what are best practices that you recommend your clients do?
Yeah, to get people on seats, let me just start by saying, don't get discouraged if you have a small room, right? You learn from it. You, just like any other thing, like in marketing and ads and all this fun stuff, you learn and then you kind of do a little change to make it happen, and people see what you're wanting, what are you presenting, what your event is all about. So don't get discouraged in the first end. But one of the good big practices that I have as an event coordinator that I would share will be, if you have a live event, do meetups. So in our world, in our industry, we call it previews. And so what those do is you're introducing them to your product, your brand, your company. It's all about trust now, right? And so they will not take out their credit card until they actually trust you on what you're saying and what product or service or coaching you're offering is really going to get them that result. So one thing that I recommend, which I'm doing now for my second event, which I didn't do in my first one, was meetups. So I actually have one coming in 2 weeks here in Las Vegas, and it's a free event. So these are free events, and they're called, again, in the back end, they're called previews. But in the front end, kind of facing, attendee facing, they're called meetups, networking mixers, etc. They're free to attend. And what you do is give them an opportunity to connect with like-minded people in the city, in the community, but also you're then going to give value. So give a little bit of value. So in my instances would be how live events could transform your business. So I'll be given an hour of value of, these are the different ways that could make or scale your business. And so these previews are typically 2 to 3 hours on a Tuesday night, Wednesday night, during the week, when people get off of work, if they still have a W-2, and they come and meet you in live, meet you, get to know you as a person, as your brand, but ask questions. Because in a time like this where there's so much noise, a lot of on the internet, a lot of ads popping at you, you really want to feel confident of the purchase, right? And so by doing these preview events, you have an opportunity to connect them even before even having them at your bigger event. And so if you are having a high ticket offer at your larger event, then you've already connected them since the very beginning and know what they're struggling. You're able to tailor potentially your offer to them, right? Like speak to their language. So this is the power of these preview events, these networking events, is where you get to really meet them at an early stage where maybe they don't know you, right? So currently I have, I believe, 8 now signed up, which is pretty good. I still have 2 more weeks, so I'll be pushing it. But all the 8 people I don't know, like they saw me from meetup.com. I'm pushing ads on it now. And so this gives me an opportunity to do like that initial touch, right? Those 8 omnipresence and how many touch you have to give. Like this is my first touch, is like actually meeting them online, like in person. Like you're kind of all those different, what is it, 7-11 touches you have to do online to like people to actually like click on your ad or your whatever you're promoting.
It's high.
Yeah.
It's getting like higher and higher and
Yeah,
higher.
so
like,
you have to pump out more content, pump out all these things, and the power of live events here is like I'm like scraping a couple of those touches, right? Because I'm bringing them to this free meetup, I'm giving them value, and what I'm doing is learning what they're needing and how my product or service or high ticket offer can get them to that result. So I'm like cutting that touch point. I'm inviting them after I give value. I'm inviting them to my bigger event. So that is one of the strategic ways to get butts and seats, is doing smaller events. And this is multiple times before your larger events, where people have an opportunity to come and actually just meet you, right? It becomes more of a warmer lead, and once they get on site, than a cold hard lead that you have to start over once, especially if you're selling a high ticket offer. So that would be the biggest one besides ads and marketing, all the other main things that we need to do in events to get people's butts and seats, right? You still have to put ads spent, you still have to do marketing, word of mouth, maybe referral programs. Something that I'm dabbling now. All of my speakers get an affiliate link, so they're able to promote on their audiences. So leveraging other people's audiences is another huge kind of a ninja tip, I would say. So if you have other speakers, like have them promote it and give them a percentage of the ticket sales. So those would be kind of my two big ones: leveraging other people's audiences and also creating environments and networking opportunities or previews where you're able to meet this person beforehand before they even get to your main event. And so you're already nurturing them since the very weeks before they even get to your event. So when you do sell on stage at your own event, it's an easier close rather than starting fresh and kind of a cold lead.
Wow, that was extremely high level. Dude, this was really great. I significantly believe you opened up a lot of people's eyes, see the possibilities of having their own event. Again, you can start small, but great advice. Really love it. Glad you made it out today. I really appreciate you being on the show, man.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
If there's a way that if someone's watching and they want to connect with you and learn more about how to start their first event, like what's the best way people can get in contact with you?
Yeah, my website, just it's beeventsacademy.com, or connect with me in Instagram. That's my preferred. That's kind of where I'm at the most. And so Instagram is just my full name. So Victor_Guadarrama.
And we'll drop the link. So
drop the link.
Yeah, we'll have the links in there.
Yeah, it felt like a masterclass today on this. So definitely appreciate you coming through and
Absolutely.
educating us.